Good evening. We're pleased to have you all join us tonight for the first annual Coaching Character Initiative. Tonight's event is made possible by the hard work of the University of Alabama Student Judicial Board. They've coordinated and produced this event. So a quick round of applause for the Judicial Board, who's a branch of our student government. We're honored tonight to have some very special guests for tonight's program. Our keynote presenters this evening, Mr. John Croyle and also Coach Saban, both of which we're very grateful for them to take the time to spend the evening with us. Also our guests from the Big Oak Branch, we're very excited to spend some time with you guys this evening as well. Tonight's program, in addition to the presentations, we'll also have an interactive question and answer session at the end of the program. So what we're going to ask you to do is to tweet your questions to us. And the Twitter name is @UA_coaching. So if you guys would help us out with that, so it's @UA_coaching, and help us out with some questions. Otherwise, if you're not doing that, just make sure to turn your phones off and nothing interrupts tonight's program. So with that being said, I'd like to introduce Ms. Tara Ward. She's our outgoing Chief Justice, and she's going to introduce our first speaker.
Well, I had a long introduction for Mr. John Croyle, but he told me he would come up here and rip it up because that would be something his mom would say. So he told me just to tell y'all that this is a man who found out early in life what he wanted to do, Mr. John Croyle.
Before your parents were born, I played here at the University of Alabama, and my coach was Bear Bryant. And we got a national championship ring, but there's a bunch of them down here, so it's not a big deal, is it? And, you know, Auburn's had their one for the century, so they're good. If you're an Auburn fan, it's mission work. But 40 years ago, you know, I got to come out here, and Coach Bryant looked at us, and he said, "Gentlemen, those of you in the room that can write, we'd like for you to write down the goals you've got for your life." Well, 6 of us started writing. That was 4 more than Tennessee. But do y'all hate Tennessee as bad as I do? Good, good. If you're a Tennessee fan, we'll see you outside. But anyway, a long time ago, you know, he looked at us and he said, "Don't prove to me how good you are. Don't show me what you've got. Just join us and let's win the national championship." And that was it. I was expecting the mother of all preseason talks. But those 4 sentences, the simplicity of those 4 sentences set the tone for the next 4 years of my life. The 3 years that we played, we were 32-4. Winning was just understood. It wasn't a matter of where we going to win. It was by how much. And I'd look at the guy in front of me and I'd say, "Whoo, you're a big one." He'd be 6'9", about 295, and I was 6'6", 104. And I'd look at him and I'd say, "It's going to be a long day for you." I said, "I'm only going to be here a couple of series. The guy behind me is a sophomore." I said, "He's bad. He's going to hurt you." And he'd kind of, you know, kind of grunt at me, and I'd slap him and run. But I was smaller than everybody else. And you know what? If you're afraid, you're quicker. Have you ever noticed that? Fear makes you much quicker. So a guy 6'9", 295, I knew I was in trouble when he put his hands down and we were still looking eye to eye. I knew then that I was in trouble. But that first day of practice, you know, we're sitting there, and Coach Bryant said, "All right, we're going to find out who's the toughest." He said, "Croyle, come here." And I had noticed how the guys walk like this. And I said, "Well, maybe that's the way studs are supposed to walk." So I said, "All right." So I started walking like that. Coach Bryant came up, tapped me on the shoulder, and he said, "Did you leave the hanger on your shirt, boy?" And I said, "No, sir." He said, "Put your arms down." I found out the first day, don't pretend to be something you're not. And they put the ball down, and you may not remember this guy, but there's a guy named John Hannah. And he was all-pro in England Patriots for 13 years. He's on the cover of Sports Illustrated as the best offensive lineman to ever play the game in NFL. He's in the College Pro Football Hall of Fame. Coach Bryant called him over. Now, he was, real quickly, 6'3", 285. That's not that big. His thigh was 38 inches around. Calf was 22 inches around. Hips were 61. Waist was 39. Chest was 52. Neck was 23.5. Arms were 25, 6% body fat. He looked like a house with a head on it. And I looked at him, I looked like a Q-tip with ears. You know what I'm talking about? And so Coach Bryant said, "All right, we're going to find out who's toughest." I stood up, I said, "He is." I mean, this is settled right there. But they snapped the ball, and I hit him right out there. I hit him as hard as I knew how, and it knocked me totally blind. I was screaming, hollering, flopping around, because I had read that if you get hit hard enough right here, that it'll detach your retina. And I said, God, I'm going to be blind the rest of my life. And I'm screaming. I said, God in heaven, I can't play this game and I can see, much less if I'm blind, perform a miracle. And it says in the Bible, God make blind eyes to see. Coach Bryant pulled my helmet back around. We kept on practicing the rest of the day. But, hey, don't laugh. You can't breathe through an ear hole. I've tried. Y'all didn't come to hear me. I know that. So let's just go ahead and cut that out. I mean, y'all came to hear Coach Saban. I understand. I love being an appetizer for the main course. I really do. It doesn't bother me at all. But if you'll give me just a few minutes, I can't compete with Coach Saban for accomplishing things. But you know what? I'm the richest man you have ever laid eyes on. I'll show you something. Hold on. I want to show you something. There's my billfold. I don't have a dollar. Now, my wife's sitting right there in the pink. She's got all of it, but I'm just using this to prove a point. I don't have any money. Money doesn't make you happy. Success doesn't make you happy. The introduction she gave, that's what makes you happy. Knowing why God Almighty put you on earth. You were designed to be a specific person. Never settle for somebody else's agenda. How stupid. You want to be a chemist, and because your dad was a dentist, that's what you think you're supposed to do? If you stop and think about it, between the day you were born and the day you got your high school diploma, somebody else was writing your story, basically. But when you got your high school diploma, you are now the author of your story. Whatever happens from now on, you are accountable. You are responsible. If you'll give me just a minute. Choices create circumstances. Decisions determine your destiny. I repeat. Choices create circumstances. Decisions determine your destiny. Don't you ever let somebody else write your destiny. My own mom, I love my mom. She's dead, but I love my mom. But when I said, Mom, I worked at this camp this summer, and I met a little kid from the streets of New Orleans. And I told that little boy I could become a Christian, and the little boy was the timekeeper for his mama. And he would literally knock on the door and say, Mama, the next one's here. I got the money. His mama was a prostitute, and he handled her business. I don't want to hurt your feelings, but ain't nobody in this room had a bad day compared to his life. And I'll leave it at that. I told that little boy he could become a Christian. He came back the following year and told me word for word what I had told him the summer before. And I found out at the age of 19, I had just been given a gift. If you let me sidebar just a minute, before every ball game, Coach Bryant would make this statement. Okay, starting defense would be, and it was a rush when he would call my name out. And it was kind of cool because I played left defensive end and linebacker. He always called my name first. I'd swell up. Because the man said, you're the best we got at that position. Or until we can find better. But you're the best we got. And he would say, in this ball game, there's going to be 4 or 5 plays that will determine the outcome of the ball game. You never know if you're going to be the hero or the GOAT. But rest assured, the plays are coming. My young friends, some of your plays have already happened. The loss of a parent. A divorce. The joy of finding your true love and marrying him. The list goes on. Pluses and minuses. But those plays are coming. But to be real honest with you, for the majority of you, God's not through working with you to write the plays of your book. Now, some of you right now are saying, oh, are you one of those religious fanatics? No, I'm not. I became a Christian when I was 17, and I have embarrassed God every day since. But he still lets me be a part of the family. And on the way here, we were in the van, and a lady pulled out in front of me and kind of cut us off. I did not lean out the window and say, bless you, darling. I didn't. I can't tell you what I called that woman, but the point I'm trying to make is choices create circumstances. Some of you right now have made some choices that are very good. Some of you have made some poor choices. And in about 15 years, your little boy is going to look at you and say, hey, Dad, did you ever mess around before you married Mama? And you're going to have to tell him the truth. Hey, Mom, you ever been just really, really messed up? You're going to have to tell them the truth. You can't lie to your kid. People dump their children at the ranch normally around the age of 12. And you know why? Because you can't fool a 12-year-old. We take children 6 to 18 that are orphaned, abused, neglected, and homeless. My wife and I now have been doing this for 37 years. We've raised 1,900 children. Our first kid's 57 years old. We've got about 120-something grandchildren we know of. I said we know of. And these 7 right here, we're leaving here as soon as we get through and Coach Saban gets through and we do the question and answer thing. By the way, would somebody, just please one person ask me a question so I don't look like a Yahoo up here when 35 questions over there. So ask one question like, why? But can I tell you something? These are 7 of my babies. They belong to me. And I promised them no one's ever going to hurt them again. And we're going to Disney World when we leave here. And we got a private plane waiting for us at the Tuscaloosa Airport. He's going to fly us down there. And a good friend of mine named Larry Ruffin, who played here 39 years ago, he made arrangements. So we're staying at the Orlando Hilton 10 minutes from the front gate for free. The plane trip's for free. All we got to pay for is food and a Disneyland ticket. Of course, I mean Disney World ticket, but that was $825. So we're going to have a great time. Now, there's 3 boys that didn't make the trip. They were seniors. Senior year. They screwed up the last 3 weeks. We left them at home. And you know what? It was tough today when they saw all of their senior friends getting in the van to come with me and Miss T to go to Disney World. I waved at them and said, see you later. Because, see, they made a bad choice. All 3 of them were different choices, but they made bad choices, and there were consequences. You're getting ready to make decisions about the rest of your life. Once you compromise, it starts getting easy. The first time your ethics start to come into question and your word becomes worthless. When somebody mentions your name, you're a joke. I tell you what, the boy can drink more beer than anybody I know, but man, I wouldn't trust him if I was ever in trouble. Oh man, she's a great date, but I sure wouldn't want her to be my wife. You can control who you date. You can't control who you fall in love with. Next to decision about what you're going to do with your life in the Lord, the second greatest decision you will make will be the choice of your mate. Some of you come from great families. Some of you come from families that were dysfunctional, to say the least. We've dedicated our lives to all the kids we take care of. We got 121 kids right now. I think we've sent about 10 kids down here to Tuscaloosa. Our son came here, Brody. He was quarterback here about 5-6 years ago, and he's finishing up his career with the NFL. He's been there 5 years, and he's all right. But you know what? We did a piece with Fox Sports, and they were talking to him about growing up at a home for kids and all that kind of stuff. And when they did that, at the end of the interview, he said, you know what? I'd rather that they said I was a good man than a great football player. Guys, there's a shortage of men. There's a shortage. Character. What is it? Well, doing what's right when no one's looking. That's nice. Character is doing what's right, period. Whether somebody's looking or not. I have made every mistake you can make as a man, husband, and father. But there comes that time in your life where you draw a line in the sands of your life and say, that's enough. Some of you grew up in great families and you've lost some of your balance. You're out of balance. The partying leg has gotten really, really strong. And the leg of being who you really are has gotten weak. Don't misunderstand me. My wife looked at me the other day. She said, you're the most immature man I know. I said, thank you. Because when it snows, I'm first one out with the four-wheeler and the ski rope and a trash can lid. Do you know how fast you can go down a snow-covered hill in a canoe? 46 miles an hour if it's tilted just right. And you got the weight distributed. I found the secret to life, but what is it? On my desk, I have two things glued to my desk. And my daughter said, Dad, you didn't glue them to the wood. I said, I sure did. I got a paper clipping that says, parents convicted of chaining and starving a 13-year-old boy to death. When they found the boy, chain was around his neck, his foot was stretched out, and his foot was a half-inch from a plate of food. He was 13 years old, and he weighed 55 pounds. Mom and Dad were idiots, and that's the nicest thing I can say. Underneath it, I have three questions. None of you in this room are old enough to remember, but they used to have the Cracker Jacks box. And the Cracker Jacks box had a compass in it. Now, I ain't talking about a piece of paper with a compass drawn on it. I'm talking about a compass. And you put it in your hand, you could kick it, stomp it, throw it, it would not work. But if you put it in the palm of your hand and you just thumped it, boop, 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 it would find true north. I'm going to give you the secret to true north. Now you're saying, well, who are you? I ain't nobody. That's why I love that introduction. I'm just a guy who found out early in life what he's put on earth to do. Oh, sure, I've got the career in athletics, national championship ring, and all that good stuff. But I went to see Coach Bryant. I said, Coach Bryant, I'd like to get the money from pro football and start a home for kids. He said, don't play pro football unless you're willing to marry it. Go build that ranch you've been talking about. Walked out of his office, and I never looked back. God bless him, my son got to go play in the NFL. That's a lot more fun than me getting to play. I'm going to ask you three questions. Now, I'm not going to treat you like teenagers. I'm going to treat you like young adults. I'm going to ask you three questions, and if you would, just think about them. With your life, what has God called you to do? Some of you, it's been so long since you talked to God, you don't even know how to spell his name. For some of you, you think God's last name is Damn. It's not. He's still in charge. Now you're saying, oh, you're that religious guy. I repeat, I'm not. My wife's sitting here. She'll tell you, I ain't religious. I'm about as sorry as you can get. But there comes that day where you realize you're the master, I'm not. With your life, what's God called you to do? Second question, are you doing it? Third question, what's the fruit of question 1 and 2? What's the fruit of your life? You say, well, I'm only 21, 22 years old. There is still fruit. My wife's one of the best women I know. She had fruit at 19, 20, 21, and then she had a brain whatever, married me. She's dating this guy that looked like a model. And then I walked in and she said, I don't think so. But she kind of looked past this and said, maybe there's something inside worth retrieving. Some of you have heard your whole life, you'll never amount to anything. You're a mental orphan. You've been told you can't accomplish anything. Some of you have been told you can accomplish anything you want to accomplish, and yet you know you really can't. What's the fruit of your life? Now, in just a minute, you got the big boy coming in. As I said, I'm just the after dinner mint warm-up appetizer. I'm the crab legs of the main entree. Anybody here like crab legs besides me? Aren't they great? Of course, you got to eat 86 of them just to get enough in your mouth that smell like a fish. If you will give me just a minute, it boils down to this. Here's a pyramid of your life. The pyramid's got obviously 3 sections to it. This one corner right here, what is your priority? Your priority is what you've got to do right now. Your priority is to do the best you can in school, make your grades. Do not walk in to your professor and say, I heard a guy talk last night, and he said my priorities needed to be rearranged, and you're not it. Don't do that. Your priority is what you're responsible for. Remember that. Purpose. What is your purpose on this earth? If you know you're supposed to be here and you're living over here and you know this is because you want to fit in and you want, can I just tell you something? The percentages of you being best friends with the kids, your best friends right now, excuse me, I didn't say that right. The percentage of you being best friends with the people you're best friends with right now in 20 years is about 20%. You'll move on. Are you going to move on with positive memories or negative? Are you going to smile whenever they think of your name, or are you going to go, oh, crap? When you look in the mirror, are you going to like what you see? You are writing the rest of the book. No one else is. Your professor's not writing it. Your future husband, your future wife is not writing it. You are. I tell the kids, I said, your husband is already born. You want a king for a husband? You better be a queen. God don't put kings with jokes. If you want a queen for a wife, you better be a king. God doesn't put queens with jerks. And by the way, guys, let me give you a little hint. You got somebody else's queen in the back of your car, thinking you're going to be okay with yours. Don't ever think your queen ain't in the back of somebody else's car. You set the standard by the decisions that you make. Priority, purpose. There's a third one. Passion. Passion. Those children, I hope, know I would die for them. I would. I got the best job in the world. Now, I want to close with a story, because I don't want to run over on my time, because they told me they would jerk me off the stage. About 6 years ago, I'm riding down the road, and the third boy that ever lived with us called me. His name's Tony. He said, I know where 2 kids are. Now, the first question in the Bible is, where are you? So I figured if that's God's first question, it might not be a bad one to copy. So I said, where are they? He said, I'll arrange a meeting. So I went to the Steele truck stop in Steele, Alabama. Anybody here know where that is, Steele, Alabama? Okay. Y'all may know where the Steele truck stop is. OSHA doesn't. And so I walked in, and I looked at, and here's this round table with this woman, her sister, and 2 small children. I said, how you doing, ma'am? She said, you him? I guess I'm the only him in here. She said, are you that guy that we see on TV that gives kids chances? I said, oh, yes, ma'am. Because, see, I shifted gears. Instead of laughing, I guess so. And when she said, are you him? Are you that guy? With confidence, because my priority, my purpose, and my passion are in alignment, and they are equal, and they are strong. I'm real good at what I do. And it ain't speaking. I mean, you've already known that. But I'm real good at loving them. And the other 123 we still have back at the ranch. Even the 3 that screwed up, I still love them. But it wasn't hard leaving them. That sounds kind of mean, but you know, we got a shortage of men. And we're trying to make them into a man. I looked at the woman. I said, yes, ma'am, I'm him. She said, well, here's my little boy. He's 11 years old. He just got back for a 3-week tour of Florida with some friends of mine. He had a real good time. I'll never forget what she said. He had a real good time. And then I looked at the little girl, and she was 10. And the lady said, this is my daughter. She didn't get to go to Florida. She visits a friend of mine every other weekend in Anniston, Alabama. Some of you know where Anniston is. And then I looked at him, and I've been doing this a long time. And I can spot an abused child. I can spot an adult that's abused. There's this betrayal look. You were betrayed. Somebody that was supposed to protect you and die for you betrayed you. It's just a betrayal that you cannot hide. It's there in every grown adult and young adult that's ever been abused. It just shows. And as I said, a man that experiences is never at the mercy of a man with an argument. You can argue with me all day long, but I've been there. I looked at the 2 kids, and I realized what it was. They thought I was next. Because, see, the mother sold her 2 kids on the internet to pedophiles. And that's how she got her money for her drugs. Bad choices. The kid said, we thought you had already bought us for the weekend. I got sent to go get them. I can't do what Coach Saban can do. Lord knows. I can't do what these 3 folks can do. But you give me 2 little kids that have been hurt. That ain't work. You know, you wake up in the morning one of two ways. Good morning, Lord, or good Lord this morning. However you want to look at it. I can't wait to get up in the morning. I have two moods, awake and asleep. Because I'm doing my wheelhouse, what I was built to do. And I looked at the kids, and because I'm not very smart, I make every child that's ever lived with us 4 promises. See, it's not rocket science. I look at these children. Every kid here has heard the same story. I love you. I will never lie to you. I will stick with you till you're grown, and there's boundaries, don't cross them. Those 3 seniors crossed boundaries the last 3 weeks, and it cost them. I love you. I will never lie to you. I'll stick with you till you're grown, and there's boundaries. As a parent one day, if you give your child emotional support, truth, security, and discipline, you will raise a thoroughbred. You will not raise a jackass. I promise. Now, some of you say, well, you hadn't met my brother. I understand that. Tell me about your brother. The girl went to the girls' ranch in Springville, Alabama. The boy went to the boys' ranch in Gadsden, Alabama. And by the way, can I do a little advertising? We're looking for interns for the summer to come work with us and come and work at the ranch and work with the kids all summer and be used by God, because in your life you'll either impress, impact, or inspire people to greatness. One of the 3. Impression doesn't last very long. Impacting is kind of moderate. Inspiring someone to greatness lasts for eternity. So we're looking for interns for the summer. There's my paid political. Not wasn't political. I hate political. That was my paid announcement. Well, it's not paid. There's my free announcement. We need help. Okay. Now, where was I? Help me. Where was I? My ADD kicked in. Where was I? What are you looking at her for? Don't you love it? You're on the front row. I've spit on you twice. You still don't know what I'm talking about. Oh, that was good. That was 3 minutes ago. That was so 3 minutes ago. When we made the promises, the girl went to the girls' ranch in Springville. The boy went to the boys' ranch in Gadsden. About 30 days later, the little girl's in the van, and what we do is we build a 5,400 square foot home. We put a godly couple in that home, and then we give them 8 boys or 8 girls. And they raise them up, just like someone did for you. It's really not. We built a subdivision. We move in our neighbors, and we give our neighbors a bunch of kids. And if we don't like any of them, we get rid of them. It works out great. But the kids live there at the Springville campus and the Gadsden campus. And right now we have 17 in college. Next year, we'll have 28 in college. The next year, we will have 51 kids in college that we're paying for. I got the best life in the world. And the ones that don't make good grades, they come home. And they work. And then we don't pay them. They just work. She's in the van. She's in the passenger seat. The house dad's driving the van. She goes, and he says, what? She said, can I ask you a question? He said, sure, baby, what? Give me just a couple of minutes. You really love me? Y'all are all young people. Can I tell you, your whole life up until now, when you were at home, every day you asked your parents this question, maybe not verbally, but subconsciously. Boys, you asked the question, it's got 2 parts to it. Do you really love me? And do I measure up as a man? That's the driving force inside of you. Girls, can I tell you what? You know what you ask? Do you really love me? And Daddy, you think I'm pretty? You may be ugly as a run-over duck on the road. But you know what? If your daddy thinks you pretty, it don't matter what anybody else thinks. Would you agree with me? Now, some of y'all say, well, you ain't met my dad. You're right. But I've met his daughter. And that inner confidence just exudes when you've got it. If you've got it, you can't hide it. If you don't have it, you can't fake it. It. He said, you know I love you. Why? She said, I need to tell you something. And she started wringing her hands. And she said, do you remember those 2 men I told you about? He said, yeah. They really hurt me. Once they were hurting my brother real bad, and he was bleeding and he was screaming. And I was hitting them and kicking them, trying to make them stop, and they wouldn't stop. Then they went and got the camera, and they taped us to a chair with gray tape, duct tape. They taped us to a chair at the end of the bed, and they made us watch them do ugly things to our mama. And I ain't never told nobody. Can I tell you something? Starting with these guys, coming all the way around to right here, everybody in this room has got a story. I pray to God it's not that graphic, but everybody's got a story. And can I tell you something? You have no right to be rude to another human being because you don't know their story. That little girl I'm telling you about might be walking next to you on the quad tomorrow, and you look at her like you think she's filth, or she's not as pretty, or she's not quite as good looking as you are. You have no right to make her feel second class, because that little girl's my daughter. How dare you treat her with disrespect? She may not be actually my daughter, but you get the point. When I found out, I took off to school and I picked her up and I held her and I just hugged her. And then I backed away from her and I just said, do you remember those 4 promises I gave you? And she said, about loving me? I said, yeah. She said, yes, sir, I remember those. I said, you get one more promise. And kid, I don't want to hurt your feelings, but when somebody makes you a promise and they keep it, isn't that cool? But when someone gets a promise to you and they break it, they're officially become a liar. Would you agree? You don't go to your friends and say, oh, my friend, he's a promise breaker. Hello. You look at your friend and say, Bill, he's nothing but a liar. By the way, that is a hard word to get off of your resume. Hard word. So don't ever put it there. So anyway, if you want to wrap up my life in one capsule, just one capsule, it's this. And I love my wife, and I love them, and I love my son, my daughter. I wouldn't trade my boy and my daughter for anybody in the whole world, and I would die for them. But I took her face in my hands, and this is my life. I said, look at me. I said, I promise you, as long as I breathe, no one will ever hurt you like that again. Because see, I know who I am, I know what I am, and I know why I am on this earth. I can't do what you do. I'm not smart. But I know what I am good at, and that's making her a promise that no one's ever going to hurt her again. First words out of her mouth, thank you, no. Appreciate it, no. First words out of her mouth, would you tell my brother? I got the boy in the truck with me. I looked at him. I said, I know. He said, you do? I said, yeah, I know. He said, how'd you find out? I said, what? He said, and he started telling me about him and 3 boys smoking behind the barn. And I said, that wasn't it? He said, oh, crap. I said, no, your sister told me. When I said your sister told me, he instantly started crying. Lips started quivering, and his hands started shaking. And you know what it was? Girls, I don't hurt your feelings, but boys hurt different than you do. I didn't say worse or better. I just said we hurt different. His eyes filled up with tears. And I said, look at me. As long as I breathe, boy, ain't nobody going to hurt you again. Fast forward to about almost 4 years ago. I got him in the tree stand. We're deer hunting. Those of you that deer hunt know deer can hear real good. Those of you that don't deer hunt, you don't know if deer can hear or not, but they can hear real good. He's in the tree stand. He drops the binoculars. He drops the gun. And then he said, where are the deer? I said, about 8 miles down that road right over there. You could see the whole herd running out of the valley. I'm sorry. Can you give me a couple more minutes? Is Coach here yet? You're here? I'm trying, Coach. They told me I was your warm-up act, and I'm trying. Give me just a minute. I said, take the binoculars and see what you can find. He took the binoculars, he went, and he just froze. And he's going, there's a cow, can we shoot it? I said, we ain't hunting cow. I said, just keep looking. About 30 minutes later, the deafest doe walked out. She came out, somebody's filled some stuff there in the field, and she was eating it. Wasn't me, I was driving the truck. But anyway, she started eating that corn, and then he got doe fever. He got the gun up, and he's going like this. And I said, he's going to shoot me. And so then we loaded it, and then he got ready to shoot. He missed. I do not bet. I bet once in my life, and my dog broke his leg in the third turn. So that's the only time I ever bet. But if I were a bet, I'd have bet the farm he's going to miss that doe. He did. When he missed, he drops the gun in the floor of the tree stand, and he falls in the floor. And he's laying in the floor. His face is on the plywood. The splinters are sticking him in the face. And it hit me like a wall. What a child hears repeatedly, they eventually believe. Some of these children right here have heard garbage in their lives growing up. Me and Miss T said, they lied to you. This is who you really are. I picked him up. I said, look at me. By the way, I left something out. What happened was when he missed, everybody's life that had told him he was a piece of garbage, he proved them right. I picked him up. I said, look at me. I'm big on eyeballs. He said, I said, yes, sir. I said, look at me. Yes, sir. I said, the neat thing about God is he always lets you reload. And that deer ain't moved yet. When the bullet flew over the deer's head, she threw her head up, and she was so stupid, she turned sideways to make sure we had a better shot. She's all stressed out sideways. This time, because see, first time, he realized what he was doing, and he made the adjustments. He took the gun, he relaxed, he drops that doe, she hits the ground. What made it cool was that morning at 4:30 when I woke him up, I changed his way of thinking. I said, you the man today. You're feeding your little sister today. You are protecting your little sister. You are the man today. When he shot the doe, she hit the ground, he drops the gun, he dives over the tree stand, he hugs my neck. It had taken 3 years to get him to trust me. I tell you that story before Coach comes. I tell you that story for this reason. I want to close with two things. Choices create circumstances. Decisions determine your future. Don't you let anyone finish your book. You finish your book with what you want in it. You determine the contents. Secondly, the only reason God let you wake up this morning wasn't to come hear me or Coach. The only reason he let you wake up this morning was a chance to reload, to be the best person, the best son and daughter, the best student, the best individual that you can be. And the target to be those things, it hadn't moved. It's just sitting there. If you aim at nothing, you're going to hit it every time. You aim at character, and you aim at ethics. You aim at doing the right thing. You aim at having depth to you. Then guess what? You might get a chance to date one of my babies. Till then, you ain't good enough. It's been a joy. I thank you so much for letting me come, and I hope if y'all are ever up in Gadsden, you will come by and see us. And if it's 3 o'clock in the morning, I don't care. Call us. I'll get up. I'll get directions to find out exactly where you are, and then me and the kids will pray for you the next night at supper. Thank y'all so much. It's been a joy. Thank you very much.
So I had this nice little introduction I was going to read, but I'm just going to scratch it. Next speaker doesn't really need an introduction. So Coach Nick Saban.
Appreciate it. Hey, John. How are you? Well, I'm certainly pleased and happy to be here. And it's always good to share with the students here at the University of Alabama some thoughts of what might help you be successful. But the first thing I'm going to tell you is things don't always go the way you want. I don't know how many of the students here or faculty here, or were you here the first year we were here 5 years ago? Was anybody here then? Does anybody remember the first season we were here? You know, a lot of the love that you get sometimes in your life is conditional on certain things. And if you remember back to that first year, we lost a game to ULM. Does anybody even know what ULM stands for? It's University of Louisiana Monroe. It's one of those directional schools, you know, northeast, northwest, whatever. But that was the low point of my career, I think, as a coach, when we lost that game in Bryant-Denny Stadium. And it was like the third out of 4 in a row that we lost. We'd had players do the wrong things, got suspended for the games, made poor choices and decisions, things I'm going to talk to you about. But I was about as low as I'd ever been as a coach in this profession. And lo and behold, when I get in my car after the press conference, taking the beating from everybody, the fans are all upset. I get in my car's empty. I got to drive home, and I got to stop someplace and get gas. So I pull into the self-serve, and incidentally, you know, my background is that's how I grew up. You know, I pumped gas at my dad's service station for $1 an hour when I was 11 years old, all the way until I got married, which was when I was a junior in high school. I never had another job other than that until I got married. It was full service then. This was self-service this time around. So after I filled it up, I had to go in and pay the guy. So, you know, I had my LSU national championship ring on from when we'd won the championship at LSU. So when I pay the guy, he says, "Wow, man, what's that ring you got there?" I said, "That's a national championship ring from LSU, and we're going to do the same thing here at Alabama." And he says, "We'll never do it as long as that Nick Saban is the coach." So, but you know, sometimes a lot of people ask the question what it takes to win. And obviously, you know, in our profession, you have to have a good game plan. You have to have really good preparation. You have to have some flexibility and ability to adjust when things don't go exactly the way you'd like for them to. And you have to have a foolproof system and approach. Well, you know, your life is really no different than that. I mean, if you're going to be successful and you're going to have a chance to be successful, you have to do some of the same things. But it really all starts with who you are. You know, I always tell our players, who you are is more important than what you do. How high you jump, how fast you run, because who you are is your character. And your character is an accumulation of your thoughts, your habits, and your priorities on a day-to-day basis, because those 3 things determine the choices you make, and the choices you make you who you are. Good guy, bad guy, hard-working, lazy, responsible, irresponsible. And it takes a certain amount of discipline to do what you're supposed to do, when you're supposed to do it, the way it's supposed to get done. If we were talking about business, it would be all about doing the right thing, the right way, at the right time. It's the same thing for you. And the only way that you're going to have any kind of success in your life is make good choices and decisions, because all the choices and decisions that you make have consequences. And you have to have enough foresight sometime to understand how those consequences can affect your future. Every choice and decision that you make. Now, it helps a lot if you really know what you want to do. How many of you really know what you want to do? Do you have a plan for where I'm going to be 10 years from now, 5 years from now, next year, next semester, next week? And then how do you assess how you're making progress toward that? Well, that's the most important thing, because where I grew up in West Virginia, when you ask somebody what they wanted, they would say, "I'm really working hard so I can buy a pickup truck." That's not a goal. And you have to buy into a process of what it takes to reach a goal. You know, I ask players on our team, receivers are the best because they're the most selfish guys on the team most of the time. And you ask them, "What's your goal?" "Oh, I want to catch 100 passes." That's not a goal. That's a result. A goal is a process of what you have to do it. I would think a better goal for you would be, what do I have to do to be a complete player at my position? How can I be the best I can be at what I do? And take responsibility for that, and then I will be the best player that I can be. But if you know what you want and you're committed to it and you have passion for it, then you're going to be willing to invest your time in it and have the desire and work ethic that it takes to accomplish anything. You know, and what I see so much with our players. And that's all I can relate to, because they're the young people that I deal with every day. I have 2 children of my own, both who are students here, and I deal with them. And I can get our players to do sometimes the right things better than I can my own kids, because they all at least want to play. So I got something hanging over their head. They all want that. So we can make them do some of the right things, because there is something that is really important to them that you can take away. And they understand that consequence. But if you invest your time instead of spend it, and if you think about all the time that you spend, all the things that you've done today, and you have this goal in mind of what you want to accomplish, how much of your time was spent and how much was it invested in your goal? And how positive was your attitude toward trying to accomplish that goal? And you know, when you have expectations like catching 100 passes, that's not a goal. That's a result. Because when you have those expectations, you always get frustrated when you're not meeting those expectations. And people always create expectations for you. The media creates expectations for us, for me. Your parents probably create expectations for you. So it makes it more difficult to be positive unless you have a goal and a process in mind for how you can be all you can be at what you choose to do. Then you're talking about a process of what you're going to do to be successful. And it starts with, you know, Muhammad Ali always said, you know, every fight I ever won, I won somewhere on the road far, far away. It was working. It wasn't the lights in the ring. It wasn't the self-gratification when you got the opportunity and could take advantage of it. It was all the preparation, hard work you did to get there. You reap what you sow. So you're only going to get out of something what you put into it. And you need to understand that. You got to be responsible for it. And it takes a tremendous amount of perseverance. You know, and that's the one thing, if you're going to be a really good competitor and you're ever going to have any great victories in your life or whatever it is that you want to accomplish, you can't do it unless you can overcome adversity. Because that's what makes great things great, is the things that you had to overcome to accomplish them. And it starts with your perseverance, which you have a goal, you work toward a goal, you make mistakes, you have setbacks, you learn from each and every one of those. You know, there was a great commercial that was about 15 years ago when Michael Jordan was at the height of his career. And he was in a limo, he's all dressed up in a suit, and he was going to play a game. And a commentator was saying, I've taken 26 game-winning shots and missed. I've shot the ball 2,400 and some times and missed. I've played in 384 NBA games and lost. And he opens the door to walk in the locker room and he says, but because I fail is why I succeed. So everything's not always going to go exactly like you want it to. How you manage the negative things that happen to you are most important. And when you think, there's a book out there called The Road Less Traveled. It's a spiritual development, positive energy and attitude book that a priest gave me in 1986. And he said, here, read this and you'll be a lot happier and more positive. The first line in the book, life is difficult. I said, this priest is crazy. He gave me this book. I'm thinking it's going to be spiritually uplifting. The first thing in the book is a negative statement. But when you read the book, the whole idea was, when your expectation is not that everything's going to work out perfectly for you all the time, just like you'd like for it to, you're more ready to be able to overcome the adverse circumstances that you get faced with. And your perseverance and positive energy and attitude is going to stay better and be better the whole time for you. So I always remembered that. You know, the greatest speech I ever heard a coach give, and maybe you all don't even remember who Woody Hayes was or is, but he was a coach at Ohio State a long time ago and a very good coach, kind of like to the tradition of Alabama, Bear Bryant is, he was to Ohio State. And when I coached there, it was after he was the coach there, but he was still alive. And Ohio State has high expectations, just like they do here at Alabama. And we were playing Michigan the last game of the year, and that's a huge rivalry, just like the Auburn game is here, to give you some perspective. And we were 17-point underdogs. And we had already lost 2 games that year, and Michigan was undefeated, #1 in the country. And the media was very negative. Everybody on the team was very negative. most of the times when you play in these big games, you know, the players are just out there almost fighting each other in practice because they're so energized and excited about having the opportunity to play in a big game like that. It means so much to them. We had no energy, no intensity. Coaches didn't think we could win because we were surrounded with so many negatives, and the external factors was affecting everyone. So we had a senior tackle on Friday, which if any of you guys played, or had a ceremony in whatever sports you participated in, the seniors go and they make the last tackle, the last practice before the last game. And Coach Hayes came and talked to the team. And he said, there can be no great victories in life without tremendous adversity. And he talked about the war in the Pacific being the greatest military victory of all time because of Pearl Harbor. And then he took all the negative things, that we had lost games, we were 17-point underdogs, we were going to play at Michigan, there was going to be 106,000 people rooting against us, and it was snowing, it was cold. Nobody thought we could win. But because we had all these things against us, that it was a tremendous opportunity for us to have a great victory. You know, the whole attitude of everybody on the team, the whole organization, completely changed, turned around. Because we weren't looking at this as something bad that could happen. We weren't fearing the opportunity that we had to get beat and lose and get embarrassed and get criticized further. We were now all looking at this as, hey, this is a great opportunity for us to have a great victory. And we won the game. We won the game 14-9. And they had a great team. And after the game, Coach Hayes came in the locker room and said, I'm glad this is the last game of the season. I was about 27 years old. I was all fired up. Man, I was saying, why couldn't we have done this early? We could go undefeated now. We finally arrived. And he said, I'm glad we don't play anybody next week. I looked at him. He said, because there's not a damn team in the country that we could beat next week because we just played the best that we could ever play. Totally gave everything we had and just spent ourselves on what we thought was a great opportunity. But it was a great lesson. And you know what? I played a lot of games. I've been doing this for 37 years. And I always remember that game. I always remember that story. And that's still one of the greatest wins that I was ever associated with. And I was just an assistant coach then. But it was because of the way it happened and the negative energy that surrounded our team. You know, what kind of pride and performance do you have? These things are all about your character. They're all about you being successful. I mean, is it really important to you to be all you can be, to be the best you can be? You know, we have a pyramid of success over there in the football building, and it starts with be a champion. You know, I always tell the players, you got to be a champion before you're ever going to win a championship. So what does it take to be a champion? Who you are is important. All the things I'm talking about is important. All right, but everybody has got to be committed to being all they can be in the things that they choose to do. And it's really up to you what you choose to do and what you want to do and what you want to accomplish. But if you don't aspire to be the best that you can be at whatever it is you choose to do, you're never going to be happy. If you don't have the discipline to do it, if you don't have discipline, one of two things are going to happen. You're either going to suffer through the pain of disappointment or the pain of discipline, because it's not easy to be disciplined, but you're never going to get to be what you want to be if you don't have it. And you have to really want to be as good as you can be. You know, the best sermon I ever heard, I never heard it, I heard a tape of it years ago, was a Martin Luther King sermon from probably 50 years ago. And he started out by talking about, I only get my shoes shined at the Green Stamp store in Montgomery, Alabama, because the guy that shines my shoes has the greatest pride in performance of anybody I associate with. Because he felt so good when he pleased you for the great job that he did shining your shoes. And then he goes on and talks about if you're going to be a street sweeper, be the best street sweeper you can be. Sweep the streets like Michelangelo painted the Sistine Chapel, like Shakespeare wrote literature. Let him put a sign up that says the best street sweeper in the world lives right here. And if you do that, you accomplish the best there is in life. Because you know you did your best to be the best you could be at whatever it is you choose to do. So that, to me, summarizes pride in performance as well as anything that I've ever heard. And I think it's a tremendous inspiration to all of us. And you know, you have to communicate to be able to do this. You know, you can't work. There's one thing that if you have goals, But these goals won't just be about you individually being able to accomplish these goals, because one of the things on that pyramid of success I talk about is being a team. And the big part of being a team is you have to be able to communicate with other people, and you have to work with other people. And you can never have any team chemistry for this reason. Mediocre people don't like high achievers, and high achievers don't like mediocre people. So if everybody doesn't buy into the same principles and values of the organization and the same high standard, you're never going to be successful. Just like our spring practice right now. You know what my goal with spring practice is? Get the right guys on the bus, get them in the right seats, and get the wrong guys off the bus. So one of these days you're going to be working in an organization and somebody's going to try to do that to you. So which one of those people do you want to be? Do you want to be somebody they're trying to get off the bus because you're satisfied with mediocre performance? Because you can never have any team chemistry in your organization if everybody's not committed to the same standard and the same things. You know, when I worked for Bill Belichick, we had one sign in the building. It was, do your job. And you go in all these places and, you see all these things. One sign, do your job. He defined the expectation for everybody in the organization, whether it was the secretary, the personnel people, the coaches, the players, the kind of players that we wanted, the kind of size they needed to be, the kind of personal characteristics we wanted them to have, the critical factors to play their position. But once it was defined, you had to be responsible for your own self-determination, and that is accountability. And you have to be able to communicate with other people and be a part of an organization and work with people to be able to do that. And you also have to be willing to serve other people to be able to do that. It can't be just about you. You may be motivated about what's about you, but in your life, it can't be just about you. You got to serve other people. Let me ask you this. How do you pray? Do you pray to be blessed? Or do you pray to be a blessing? Somebody else has to bless you. But you can be a blessing to everybody that you meet, everything that you do, by the positive energy and attitude that you have. What are you selling today? What feelings are you showing on your sleeve? I can tell some of our guys, the immature guys, when they come out to practice, whether they failed their math test, broke up with their girlfriend, something got wrong, something went wrong, because I can see it. And other guys are always creating positive energy that affects other people in a positive way. And if you're going to brand yourself, you're going to brand yourself as a person. Which one of those do you want to be? And the other thing is you always want to be smart about what you do. You know, Bill Parcells stood up here and told a story just a couple weeks ago when we had our clinic, and I put this sign up. I like this sign. You might think about this. He said when he was 14 years old, sophomore, playing in basketball on his high school basketball team in New Jersey, and he had this coach that was like a legend in terms of how many games he won. They had a rule on their team, just like you'll have a rule. You have rules here, you'll have rules in your organization. They had a rule on their team that said you can't talk to the official. Cannot talk to the official. Well, they were in a close game with their rivalry team, even though they were ahead by a few points, and he dove for a ball, and the other guy knocked it out of bounds, and the ref gave it to the other team, and he jumped up and screamed at the official and got a technical foul. The guy made the foul shots. Coach took him out of the game and benched him. Wouldn't play him anymore. They lost the game by 2 points. They had at 3:45, they had to be on the line every day for basketball practice. Coach kicked him out the first day, kicked him out the second day, kicked him out the third day, fourth day. He says, come down to the locker room. I want to show you something. He has a sign up in the locker room. Dumb players do dumb things. Smart players seldom do dumb things. It's all about choices and decisions. Then he asked him, which one of these are you? Are you a dumb player? Or are you a smart player? Which one do you want to be? Well, that's going to be determined by a large degree because of the choices and decisions you make. And they're not always going to be made up by you. They're going to be made up by somebody else in the organization that you're trying to succeed in. and your ability to communicate is important. But, you know, one story I like to tell that happened to a player here that you all probably watch play, and I won't say his name, but he got in a little trouble when he was a freshman. And sometimes you got to make it about you and understanding the consequences and how they affect you. And he was walking, this guy didn't drink, he had over a 3-point grade point average, he ended up being a captain on a team, made All-American, was a first-round draft pick. But when he was a freshman, he was walking behind Brian Hall, they were having a fraternity party, some guys called him a bunch of names, they were drinking and carrying on, and he got really upset and mad at the disrespect that was shown to him. So he went over and grabbed one of them by the nape of the neck and shook him up a little bit. The police came, and he could have got arrested. So I called him in my office, and I said, man, you just can't do those kinds of things. Well, the first thing he was is defensive with me about what he did. You can't expect me to let people call me those kind of names, do those kinds of things, and not do something about it. And I said, you know what? I agree with you. I think you're right. But you know, you're going to be a first-round draft pick someday. You're going to make $30 million if you're a first-round draft pick. If that cop would have given you an assault charge, you would be a third-round draft pick, and you would make $2 million. So even though I think you're right in what you did, now my next question is, for $28 million, is it worth it to be right? So sometimes you got to ask yourself that. And then, you know what his response to that was? You'll never have any more trouble with me, Coach. I'll never do anything like that again. And he never did, and he really became a first-round draft pick and signed for $40 million. I missed it by 10. So, but sometimes you have to be able to realize what the consequences of your behavior is, regardless of what your emotional commitment might be to it. So that little pyramid over there that I talked about, be a champion. Who you are is important. Being responsible for your own self-determination is real important, which is accountability. Having positive energy and attitude to accomplish the goal that you have set for yourself. And your goal is a process. It's not a result. And you got to be a part of a team. And to be a part of the team, you got to buy into the principles and values of the organization. And you got to trust and respect the people that are on the team that you have to work with every day. And you'll always be able to accomplish more if you can do those things. So I appreciate your opportunity to come over, to have the opportunity to come over and visit with you. I guess somebody's going to ask me some questions now, but you all can ask me questions if you want to. Anybody have any questions they want to ask? Or are you going to ask them? I'd be protesting if I were you, because you should be able to ask them. You're not the press, I wouldn't get mad at you.
Hey, yeah, so if anybody wants to actually ask a question in person, raise your hand and just yell it out. It's a pretty small group here, so we can all hear each other.
Well, I think however many, the question is how can we sort of spread the message of what we talked about here today and what John talked about and what you all have discussed to other people. And I think, that's important that everyone here communicate the values that you have. And I think peer pressure is one of the most effective ways to get people to change. And we had a leadership seminar before this last season, and it was all about communication. And the first question they asked the players was, do you think it's important to tell your teammates what you think? And 98% of the players answered that question no. That the coaches will tell them, somebody else will tell them that's in charge of that particular thing. And none of the players felt it was important to take responsibility to say what they thought, especially to another player. Well, the next question they asked was, what's the most important thing to you about your teammates? And you know what the unanimous answer was? What they think of me. So you talk about a total disconnect. On one side, a player thinks what my teammates think of me, my peers, is the most important thing to me. but yet my peers think that it's not important for me to say what I think. And I think a lot of times because people react because of their little sensitivities or ego or whatever, when you say something or discuss something, it doesn't have to be in a negative way, it can be in a very positive way. And you therefore immediately respond and react by saying, well, I'm never going to say that again because now he or she's upset because I said something about this or that or whatever. But I will say this, and I can only speak for myself. Anytime somebody says something to me, whether it's my wife, my kids, a player, anybody that I'm around, I may be defensive to start with, but I always go think about what they said and how I could change to make it better, even if I don't admit to them that they're right. So you are having an impact, you are making changes when you take a little bit of a leadership role in terms of trying to influence other people in a positive way to do the right things. I mean, I do it all the time. And you know, our team is not just about winning games. I mean, yeah, we won 48 games in the last 4 years, but we won the Disney Award for community service, basically. We have very few problems. We have a personal development program that everybody's involved in terms of, and it's all character, attitude, choices, decisions, peer intervention, leadership, how you affect other people, drugs, alcohol, agents, gambling, how to treat the opposite sex, macho man stuff, getting in fights, all those things that you read about people having problems with. And we don't have a lot of problems, but we invest on the front end. You know, I don't know if you know this, but we had while we were winning a national championship last semester, we set a record in the SEC. We had 38 guys make SEC honor roll, which means they have over a 3-point grade point average. That's a record of any school, Vanderbilt included, in the history of the SEC. And when they re-ranked the BCS and said, okay, let's rank these teams by graduation rate, Stanford was first, Alabama was second. So our goal and our mission statement is we want to help you be successful personally, academically, and athletically, and use the resources we have to help you launch your career when you leave. So everything we do and everybody in the organization is trying to do that. And we didn't have any of those results when we came. You know, when I went to LSU, they had a 29% graduation rate and they were 3-8. 4 years later, we won the national championship. We had a 74% graduation rate and won a national championship. So it's the standard, and it's the standard that you hold people to. And more people have to be willing to do that. Look, I was a kid growing up in West Virginia. I had to turn in my basketball uniform when I was 8 years old because I wouldn't get up and sing in music class. Miss Helminski gave me a D, and my daddy made me turn my basketball uniform in junior high basketball and took me 550 feet deep in the coal mines and said, if you don't get an education, this is where you're going to end up. Well, that was one of those life moments that changed me because I was always standing in the background, scared to step out and do something to affect somebody else. But I think that's what serving other people is. And you have to serve other people. You have to do things. You know, I mean, John does a great job with what he does. You know, our Knicks Kids organization, you know, we gave up $500,000. We give $100,000 a year to first-generation scholarships for students here. And we contribute over $750,000 toward tornado relief last year. Now, a lot of people contribute to that. We raise money for it, but we also donate a lot of money for it. And we serve other people. The happiest day of my life every year is the day we start camp. We have a luncheon for Knicks Kids. And all the kids come, the 77 organizations that we give away things to. And I see all the kids and how it affects them. It's my dad's legacy. That's what he wanted. That's what he did. And that's why I do it. Because it's his legacy. Knicks Kid stands for my dad, not me. People don't know that. So that's the happiest day of my life. I'm giving. You get a lot more when you give than when you get. Christmas changes on you, you know, when you get older and become a parent. You know, you become the gifter, not the giftee. Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
Is there one specific thing that you make sure to tell your players every day you see them?
I'm always trying to tell the players and convince the players that it's all about what they do. That focus on the things that you control. That there's a lot of external factors out there that you really can't do anything about. So stay focused on the things that are important that you can control. And it's really always all about us, and it's all about you and what you do. And you control that. And sometimes that's hard to do, you know, to be able to focus on when there's so many things that you get affected by outside of that. But to give you an example of this, you know, we really won the second LSU game after we lost the first one, because we watched the film together as a team, and we really kind of lost that game. You know, we shot ourselves in the foot a bunch, and, you know, I convinced the players that, look, if we'd have done this right and that right, and just look at this, you know, it's not because of what they did, it's because of what we didn't do what we were supposed to do, we made this mental error. So when they all left the room, they were convinced that it's all about what they do. It's all about them. That it's not somebody else, and that they are responsible for their own self-determination by the choices and decisions they make and the things that they do. And the outcome will be determined by that, not by somebody else. And every time we play a game, our players never think the other team has anything to do with the outcome of the game. They think it's all about what they do. And they believe that. And they all believe if they do their job, and everybody does it collectively, and it starts with each individual being responsible to be able to have the kind of focus and intensity and sense of urgency to execute and do things the right way at the right time all the time. So that's probably what I tell them most of the time, because most people don't see it that way. They always think something else is affecting what they do. And just because you do the right thing, the right way, at the right time, that doesn't mean things are going to work out tomorrow. It takes a little perseverance, you know. You might have to stick with it for a while. But I don't know if it'll ever work out. But I know it won't work out if you don't do it that way. You never have a chance to be successful. Someone else? Yes, sir.
Are you more inspired by the adversity from a loss or from a great victory? I feel like you learn more from a loss.
That's not how we operate. You know, I think there's lessons to be learned all the time. I think it's more difficult to get people to be willing to accept the lessons to be learned when they're having success. Because the human condition is not to be the best you can be. So the things that we're talking to you about here today, they're special. Because the human condition is to be average. It's to make an A on the first test, take 2 weeks off, make a C on the next one, and have a B average. And my daddy's happy. That's not to make an A, put the pedal to the metal, and I'm making the highest grade ever in this class. I'm going to be the best. It's not normal. So we're always trying to fight to get the standard and get people to buy into the standard. So we never talk about winning. There's not one sign in our building about winning. It's about being the best you can be. It's about being a champion. And it's about all the things you need to do that. So, because my feeling is if we can get everybody firing on all cylinders, everybody else that we play, they won't be able to do that. And we'll be more successful because of it. So the winning and the losing, playing a good guy, playing a bad guy, those are all external factors. You know, the scoreboard is an external factor. If I really want to be the best player I can be, I want to be the best at anything we choose to do. If we're ahead by 14, should that affect how I play? If we're behind by 14, should that affect how we play? I'm trying to be the best I can be. I'm trying to dominate the guy I play against. Shouldn't matter, right? Whether playing home or road, shouldn't really matter. whether it's a 0-11 team or an 11-0 team, if I'm really trying to be the best I can be, should it matter how I play? No. All right, so that's really what we're trying to aspire to. It's called being a relentless competitor. It's what horror films have made millions on, because that's what makes you afraid of Freddy Krueger. Guy's relentless. Can't kill him, right? You think he's gone, his hand comes through, grabs you by the neck, scared to death again. That's relentless. Anything else? Yes, sir. Question is how do you fight complacency? I think the whole issue is difficult because people get satisfied. It's the human condition that I talked about before. They feel entitled. I met my quota this month. There's still a week left. I ought to be able to go to the beach for a week. We won, and that's why I told the team 2 days after we got back. First team meeting I had with this team. The first thing I said to them was, this team, you guys, you are not the national champs. Some of you played on the national championship team. Some of you contributed mightily to that championship. But this team right here, you haven't done anything. And you're not the national champions. This is the 2012 team. There's not a champion been named yet. So you're constantly trying to fight to get people to be motivated rather than be reactionary to negative things to motivate them, but to be motivated and inspired by the things that they want to accomplish. And that's why it's so difficult to do anything back to back. I think one of the best teams we had here was actually 2010. We lost 3 games. Michigan State players, and I was walking out on the field after we won the bowl game 49-6 or whatever it was, said, "How did you lose 3 games?" I says, "I don't know. How'd you all win 11? But to me, I asked that question a lot. But it was really all about the question that you just asked. Team felt entitled, shouldn't have to do the things we did the year before, didn't want to do the off-season program, didn't like to practice, wanted to cut corners every way they could, and they still wanted to win when the game came. But you know that thing that I talked about? Good game plan, good preparation. We never had very good preparation from the players, because they weren't tuned into it. And then finally, when they lost the Auburn game the way they did, they were really wanting to play, and that was a bad thing for Michigan State in the bowl game. So, anything else? Last one.
Okay, how do you keep up that motivation? I mean, like doing it so long, it kind of gets exhausting when you're accomplishing like a big goal. How do you not get tired? How do you like kind of persevere? Do you have a suggestion?
Well, I think it's probably, well, first of all, let me say this. I spend a lot of time on the mental aspects of psychological disposition of people and the players, because I personally feel like that's really, really important to being successful. I mean, we have a sports psychiatrist that works with me and our players. We have a sports psychologist from IMG in Tampa who talks about team dynamics and is constantly, Kevin Elko comes and talks to the team. He did the greatest job. I mean, the greatest job of, I don't like to have people talk to the team the day before the game. I always do that. But he wanted to come and talk to the team. He's a good friend, and he talks to the team probably a couple times a year. And he's about as good a motivational speaker as I've ever been around. But he actually, I said, okay, you can come. The way we had to practice for the game was we practiced 5 days and then took 4 days off for Christmas. Then we practiced 4 more days and took 2 days off for New Year's. And I said, but when we come back from New Year's and we're going to do a regular week, you can come and talk to the team. You can kick it off, that week of practice. Well, he actually told the players, he made all these analogies of how you can be more motivated sometimes when you see somebody else's pain. You know, actually when something happens to you, but when you see your mother cry or you're inspired by somebody else really being hurt or affected, you know, you're more willing and wanting to do something to help or whatever. And he gave all these analogies. And then he opened the Bible up. All right, and I'm probably going to mess this up, John, but he told the story about Mary asking Jesus, or read it, to save Lazarus. And Jesus never responded. He just never responded. He just, first day, never responded. 2, 3 more days, never responded. She asked him again, never responded. Lazarus dies. So he goes to pay his respects. And he sees the pain on Mary's face. He sees the pain on all the family and people's face, and he raises them up. Because he was more affected by the people and the pain than what he was just to help. And then lo and behold, he closes the Bible and he said, you guys have felt the pain and you've seen the pain from losing the game of the first time, so they don't have that advantage. You guys are wear them out. That was his speech. And from that time on, the focus was unbelievable and the confidence was unbelievable in terms of what our players thought they had an advantage on in the LSU game. So, you know, it's a combination of all those things. It's not just me. And I learn these things all the time. And you should be interested in reading and learning from successful people all the time. I always learn things all the time from listening. I listened to every word John said. I was down there in the hall, so y'all couldn't see me, but I was listening and made a few notes too. So I think that's how you learn. I think that's how you grow. And I think it's how you affect other people. And I think it's important, like for me, I think the players get tired of listening to me. I think you all are tired of listening to me already. And it's just one day. They have to put up with me for 4 years. But look, is that it for the questions, or you got something now too?
That's it. I was going to ask John something.
Okay, well, look, I'd just like to tell everybody that I appreciate having the opportunity to come over and visit with you. And I want you to know that I appreciate so much being a part of this community. I think this is a great university. I love our students here. And I certainly love and respect and appreciate all that you do to support our team. And I know our players really appreciate it. It really is what makes it all worthwhile, to see the spirit and enthusiasm and to be able to contribute to the great tradition that we have here at the University of Alabama. So I thank you so much for that. Roll Tide. Thanks. Thank you.
Okay, well, John is wimping out here, and he doesn't want to take some of the questions.
No. I don't carry that man's shoes, but I know how to do what I do. Anybody got any questions? If you don't, it's fine. I'm getting ready to go to Disney World to help y'all. They're sitting there, every one of them roll their eyes. Would you please shut up and let us get on the plane? Does anybody have any questions?
We had a Twitter question, and several people had asked about internships. So if you could just give them some information on the internships.
Go to bigoak.org and look us up and see what we do and how we do it. And we're pretty stiff, but to work at the ranch, you got to have 5 characteristics: a love for the Lord, a love for children, a teachable heart, a willing spirit, and loyalty to the ranch and me. If we've got those 5 things, there's nothing we can't accomplish in changing a young child's life. So if God's leading you to do that, join us and we will go to Interpol and find out if you're worth anything or not. Okay, another question. Any? We'd love to have y'all come see us sometime, if I'm not throwing stuff around. And from a player's point of view, what he said was true, but it kind of dovetails with what I told you. You're writing your book. Don't let anybody else write it. And just remember your priority, purpose, and passion, because everything he said was true about 100 catches. If you don't work hard, you'll never get there. It's been a joy to be with you guys. Thank y'all so much. We're going to Disney World. Thank y'all very much.
All right. Hey, before y'all go, I just feel like I need to thank some people that helped with this. Tara Ward and Roger Azansky and Peyton Falkenberg and Christina Malmet and Katie Norris were just a huge help. So if y'all know them and y'all see them, just please give them a thank you for putting this on. So I'll let y'all go, and thanks for coming.